Let's start with this deal. How much is this going to hurt American Airlines?
Well, American had been accruing for the cost of the contract. They did put out a statement this morning saying that it's going to boost their unit costs because there's an extra amount that was agreed to when they renegotiated this tentative agreement that they had. So that's going to increase their unit cost about 2 percentage points this quarter, but for the full year, it's not boosting their unit cost. So they're really in fairly good shape.
Mary, how does this stack up with the agreements you saw over at Delta back in the spring?
Well, Delta reached an agreement first among the major airlines, and their agreement was valued at about $7.2 billion over 4 years. Americans is valued at $9.6 billion, according to the union, and that includes, of course, a lot of quality of life benefits in this contract. So that's not all pay; that's total compensation. Now, Delta does have some provisions in its contract where their pay will kick up if United and American approve contracts that have higher pay, and United hasn't voted on their contract yet, so we'll see. American also has a snap-up proposal on their pay rates.
Just how dire is the pilot shortage right now? Just how difficult is it for some of these airline companies to retain and attract workers?
Well, for the major airlines, they're doing well on pilot supply. The problem they've had recently is pilot training. There are some bottlenecks in pilot training. Where the real shortage is still hitting is on the regional airline level. There are still a lot of regional jets that are parked and aren't being flown because they don't have the pilots to fly them.
And this raises a question about going forward. What's going to happen if there needs to be a longer lag or a longer warning period for some of the pilots before they're called into work? Is this going to increase the cancellations and the delays, or is it going to just have to be covered by a greater number of staffers?
It depends on airline to airline what their provisions are. A lot of the airlines or the pilots groups are negotiating new rules on reserve and reserve pay. That's part of the quality of life issues that they've gone after in this round of contracts. That's one of the reasons, in addition to the raises, that they're so expensive, is they did seek a lot of quality of life improvements.
Been a decent year to date for some of these stocks. American still up close to 20%. Mary, as you know well, United up by something like 30. Delta, a similar move. Mary, can we just talk about the performance of the business at the moment? We've seen some domestic-focused carriers flag maybe a softening of demand, lower ticket prices. How do you think the year ahead is shaping up for some of these bigger airlines?
Well, they're hoping for the domestic-focused ones are really hoping that travel is going to rebound for the winter holidays. They did see a fall off in domestic demand because a lot of people chose this summer to fly internationally. For a lot of people, it was the first summer that they could go internationally. It was the first time that all of the COVID restrictions had been lifted. And so they saw this huge shift to international travel, and that produced record revenues for airlines like American and Delta. And so the domestic-focused airlines are really hoping that for the winter that rebounds on domestic, people trying to go visit their families again, visit their friends for the holidays. But it's interesting that Frontier Airlines today offered a sale just for today where you could get a free check bag if you fly September 5th through the 30th. And it's pretty interesting that they would offer that for one day. And it makes you wonder, what is their September booking? What is that looking like for them?
Mary, kind of an unfair question, but we're talking about how the staffing levels at American and Delta and the other major airlines are coming into balance as they offer more perks. What about air traffic controllers and concerns around a lack of staffing there? There was a New York Times article yesterday that caught my attention that highlighted at least 46 close encounters or planes almost crashed into each other just last month alone, that these are increasingly apparent and frequent because of the staffing shortages in some of the air traffic controller units. What's the latest? I mean, how much are they remedying that?
Well, there are certain areas of air traffic control, particularly up in the Northeast and also in Florida, where they are shorthanded, and they said they're shorthanded. The other problem is you have a lot of new inexperienced air traffic controllers because just like all the other jobs in the airline industry during the pandemic, a lot of them left. They retired early. They went to other jobs. And it takes several years to train air traffic controllers. So you've got a combination of being shorthanded, then having a certain number of people who are not very experienced, especially for the really busy air traffic control centers. And then, you have people that are still going to be in training for a couple of more years.